Unconventional year. It's an unconventional sermon and pre-holiday service highlights. So when it's unconventional, you have to start it in an unconventional way. So I begin by wishing each and every one of you a l'chaim, to long life, to health. May it be a shana tova u'mituka. May it be a sweet and good year. May God bless us that the year and its challenges and its struggles and its curses finish, and may the year and its blessings begin in abundance for all of us. L'chaim. You could bet your boots I won't be doing that Rosh Hashana morning in shul. So there you go. So this is an unconventional year, and I'm sitting here giving a sermon in my home on Zoom. So I figured if we're starting on Zoom, I might as well use technology for my benefit and be able to share something with you. So I want to begin by sharing this video that I would like you to watch with me. It's a short clip, but it's something that will be a beginning to my Dvar Torah. Give me a minute. I'm going to get it on. How do I open it all the way? It's not letting me use this. One second. I need to get a full screen. There you go. Here we are. Are we ready? Okay. This happened in a courtroom a couple of years ago in Florida.
A big day for a Miami-Dade judge and a defendant who once appeared in her courtroom. That day, she realized they knew each other, and today the judge was there to wish him well on hopefully a new path in life. This is the nicest kid in middle school. It was the bond court video seen and heard around the world. A reunion between a judge and an inmate that went viral. Did you go to Nautilus for middle school?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry to see you here. I always wondered what happened to you, sir.
Oh my goodness.
That was back in June when bond court judge Mindy Glazer recognized a former classmate, Arthur Booth, as he appeared before her facing burglary charges. I'm sorry to see you here. I always wondered what happened to you. This afternoon, Glazer met with Booth once again under better circumstances. He was released from jail after nearly 10 months. He caught a break, released on a court program. Glazer stood by waiting, along with his family, to greet Booth as he walked out of jail.
You got to take care of your family, try to get a job, stay clean. You're going to do something good for somebody else. That's what you
You
got
gotta
to do.
believe it. You gotta believe it. She's an inspiration and motivation to me right now. She just, seeing Mindy is incredible. Because I know where I could have been. But I'm not giving up on life. It's just a new leaf on life for me right now.
Yeah, as a judge, you wanted to give him a chance. It's
I
a group
cannot,
effort to see you succeed. Don't let us down.
I won't. I promise not to.
Booth also says he owes a lot not only to his lawyer, but to the prosecutor, too.
Nelia's business payment solution is the simplest way to pay vendors and contractors. Why? Because you can pay any vendor with your card or bank transfer.
1 second. Let
Even
me
if they
get this.
only accept checks. That's right.
Okay. So here we are back. Tomorrow night will be Rosh Hashana. And on Rosh Hashana, each and every single one of us will stand in front of a judge like Arthur Booth stood in front of Mindy Glazer. We're going to stand in front of a judge full of remorse about the possibilities and opportunities that could have been, the things that we could have accomplished, and the things that we didn't do. But unlike Judge Mindy Glazer, we're going to stand in front of a judge who knows us way before we were in high school. We're going to be standing in front of a judge who knows us from when we were in our mother's womb and before. As God tells the prophet Jeremiah, before I created you in your mother's womb, I knew you. And this judge knows us not just from our past years, but from before we were created and when we were created. And unlike Judge Mindy Glazer, this is a judge who a friend from high school. This is a judge who's also our Father, our loving Father, who cares for us, who loves us, who embraces us with a big embrace, no matter what we did, what we accomplished or not, and who we are. As we say in the prayers that we all chant together on Rosh Hashana, Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. Yes, God is our judge. God will stand there as our judge on Yom Hadin on Rosh Hashana, as we stand in front of him like Arthur Booth, full of hope and opportunity and regret for the past. But at the same point, he's also Avinu, he's our Father, who loves us, who cares for us, who embraces us with all our faults and with all our shortcomings. They say the story about this burglar who was in front of a judge for robbery. And the jury came back to the judge with the verdict, and the verdict was not guilty. And the lawyer tells the defendant, "You're not guilty." And the guy says, "Really?" He turns to the lawyer and says, "Does that mean I get to keep the money?" When it comes to God, God knows everything, and he knows us for all time. But Rosh Hashanah is a special day, and I want to tell you something interesting that the Talmud tells us. The Talmud says that the famous Joseph, one of the 12 tribes, Joseph the dreamer, who became the viceroy of all of Egypt and was thrown into prison for 10 years. The day that Joseph came out of prison was on Rosh Hashanah. As we say in the Kiddush, Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'kesel leyom chagenu, ki chok li'Yisrael mishpat l'kei Yaakov edus b'hi Yosef. Joseph is connected to Rosh Hashanah. You know why? Because Joseph was let out of prison on Rosh Hashanah. Why does the Talmud tell us this? Is it just a coincidence? But we know that nothing is a coincidence and everything is by divine providence. And what the Talmud is telling us is that the reason why Joseph went out of prison on Rosh Hashanah is because Rosh Hashanah is a day where we all go out of prison, when we leave our boundaries, when we leave our limitations, when we have the opportunity to get out of the things that restrain us. Rabbi Yehuda HaLevi, the famous Jewish poet, says, the world is like a prison. And all of us are like prisoners in this prison. How true has this been in this past year? Think about our confinement over the last 6 months. Terms that we've never heard about. Social distancing, shelter at home, confinement, masks, hiding our true us, not allowing us to travel, not allowing our kids to go to school, not allowing us to be able to work the way we're used to be able to mingle the way we're used to with our friends and family. But Rosh Hashanah is a day that we get the power from Joseph, the patriot, Joseph, one of the 12 tribes, to be able to leave prison. And although it's possible that we're not able to leave our physical prison, and so many of us here today on the phone, on the Zoom, will not be able to be in shul on Rosh Hashanah, some of us for the first time in our life. But that doesn't restrain us from leaving our captivity on a spiritual, emotional way. To be able to become the dreamer and live up to the dreams that we wanted, the opportunities that lied in front of us, the gift that God gave us to be the best person we could be. And on Rosh Hashanah, we get that prison, we get that opportunity. That's the gift of Rosh Hashanah, the gift to change. They say the story about this guy who went in Manhattan, he's walking down the street and he sees a Zen monk selling hot dogs. And he goes over to him, he says, "Can you give me one with everything?" And the Zen monk looks at him and says, "You are already run with everything. So the hot dog was $2. He gives him a $10 bill, and he's waiting for his change. Nothing happens. So he turns to the Zen monk. He says, "Can I please have change?" And the monk looks at him and says, "Change must come from within." And that's what Rosh Hashana is. It's the opportunity to leave our restraints, to leave our prison. If Passover is our exodus as a nation, Rosh Hashanah is our exodus as human beings, as personal people. It's when we chart our path to reach our dreams and to reach beyond where we are today. But how do we do that? How is that even possible? And the answer goes back again to Joseph. If you look at the dreams of Joseph, Joseph had two sets of dreams. In the beginning, in Genesis and Vayeshev, he's dreaming about his brothers and his mother and his father bowing down in front of him. That's how Joseph's dreams begin. But what happens after that? He's thrown into prison. He's sold as a slave and then lands in prison. But then Joseph has a second set of dreams. Dreams when he interprets the dreams of someone else, of the butler and the baker. And what happens next? He's released from prison and he becomes the viceroy of entire Egypt. He saves the entire world from hunger and brings salvation and hope to his family. What was the difference between the two dreams? The dreams that Joseph had in Vayeshev with his brothers and the dreams that he had later in Miketz, in the end of Vayeshev and Miketz. And the answer is a very simple one. The rabbis, the mystics tell us that in Vayeshev, Joseph dreamt about himself. It was all I. Joseph was going to be a leader. His brothers were going to bow down to him. He was going to be the king. He was going to be the man in charge. But then came the second set of dreams. And what are the second set of dreams? The second set of dreams were Joseph interpreting the dreams of the butler and the baker. He was being there for someone else. And when you're there for yourself and you focus only on yourself, you stay in prison. But if you're there for somebody else and you're able to think and care and love for someone else, then you're able to go free. And not just go free, but become a leader. And that's the message that Joseph gives us. And that's the way on Rosh Hashana we are able to leave our restraints and our confinement in our prisons. You know how? By thinking of somebody else. Think about the last 6 months of COVID, of coronavirus. Think about how we were confined to our homes. Yet there were so many people who were being there for us. There was the mailman who delivered the mail. There was the grocer who went to the grocery store. There was the garbage man who picked up your garbage. There was the first responders at the hospital, our heroes, our nurses, our doctors who were tending to those who needed. There was the policemen who were watching our streets and looking after us. We realized that as much as we were alone and we were social distanced and separated from the people we loved so much, we realized how much we needed someone else and how much we were interdependent and reliant and connected with someone else. We don't live alone on an island. We live in a world, a community of human beings. My friends, the entire Rosh Hashana, we're going to be speaking and talking and mentioning Chaim. We're going to beg God to give us life. Zochreinu lechaim, melech chafetz b'chaim. We plead with the Almighty. King, please remember us for life, the God who loves life. But have you ever noticed that the word Chaim is not singular? It's plural. It doesn't say Zochreinu lechai. It says lechaim in the plural. Because we recognize and we realize that the only way to be truly living, to live, not just to exist, but to live as human beings, is to be able to be living for someone else. and with someone else, and not just to think about ourselves and for ourselves. Think about all the people who went out in the streets to march for racial justice. They weren't just thinking about themselves, but they were thinking about someone else. Think about all those people who went out to help someone else and endangered their life. They recognized that it was chayim, that true life was only when you were there with someone else. But there's something else. The word chayim has two yuds in the middle in Hebrew. It starts with a chet and it finishes with a mem. And in the middle it has two yuds. Two yuds represent the name of God. Because chayim, true life, is when we think about someone else. But we need to bring the yud and yud of Hashem. We need to bring the almighty spirituality, holiness, morality, something that's beyond us into our lives to be able to lead lives that are truly fulfilling, that are chayim. Zachrenu l'chayim, melech chofetz b'chayim. And that's the way we leave prison. But there's something even deeper. That one of the greatest things that we realized that we were lacking during the coronavirus, and we still are lacking. And one of the things that in poll after poll and study after study showed that people were worried about the most was their security. They didn't know if tomorrow there would be another lockdown. Would they be a shelter at home next week or not? Would they be able to drive to the next state to visit their parent or not? Would they be able to send their kids to school or not? Would they have to wear a mask or not? Security. We didn't know what would happen to the economy, what would happen to our jobs. In Hebrew, security is bitachon. We all know that. You know, at Shul we have security. Unfortunately, we live in a world where we need to have security to watch us. Security is bitachon. But in Yiddish, we also say bitachon. You know what bitachon means? Bitachon means faith. When we lack security, when we lack the knowledge to know what's going to happen tomorrow, we need bitachon. We need to throw our faith in the Almighty. True life is when we hold on to the Torah, to God, to truth, to Jewish values, to morals, to who we are. In a time when we lost our bitachon, we realized how much we need our bitachon. Bitachon doesn't mean that we're certain. We still might have uncertainty, and we definitely do. But bitachon means the courage and the strength to move forward and to continue, even in a time of uncertainty. When we don't have bitachon, we have bitachon. We have faith in the Almighty. And that's the way we start on Rosh Hashana, on the day of our personal exodus, when we're able, like Arthur Booth, to recognize our shortcomings, but to know we stand in front of Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. One of the most poignant Avinu Malkeinus we say, that never meant so much like this year. In fact, ironically, I spoke about it at Kol Nidre last year, not knowing what was coming. No, I'm not a prophet. If I was a prophet, I would know what to invest in March, and I would have been doing something else. I know, I'm kidding. This is what I want to do. But the reality is that bitachon, one of the Avinu Malkeinus we say, is Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, Minna Magefa Minacha Losecha. Uproot the plague, the pandemic from our midst. And last Yom Kippur at Shul, I spoke about this, about the miracles we live in. And I mentioned the Spanish flu and how many people died in it and all the plagues that happened then. Not knowing where we would be today, but we cry out, our Father, our King. You might be the King, you might be judging us, but you're also our Father and you love us. And it's time to remove the pandemic. There are so many people crying to see their parents, to be able to celebrate Yom Tiv. Their Rosh Hashana won't be the same as always. And today, as we get the opportunity tomorrow night, as we'll sit with our family on Rosh Hashana, and we celebrate a new beginning, and we stand in front of our Father, the Judge, who knows us. God knows us, and he gives us that opportunity to choose life that's dependent on someone else, life that embraces somebody else, life that loves, life that cares, life that brings God into it, life that has faith, bitachon, to be able to be blessed with a new year, to be able to reach that infinite potential within us, that great gift, the greatest gift that God gave us, our neshama, that should let its wings go and soar to the heavens to reach the greatest heights and accomplish all those dreams that we've always had and we've always wanted, but we couldn't, because we're going to learn how to live dependent and interdependent. We're going to choose Chaim. I want to finish with a story with you and then a little message, and then we'll go on to our program tonight. There was a crisis in the animal kingdom. And the lion was furious with all the animals. And the animals were terrified of the lion. What are they going to do? How are they going to appease him? They needed to go meet the lion. But how did they appease him? By the way, introduction, this is a parable the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, gives us, and it's very relevant to today. Finally, the fox pipes up. It's always the fox, the smart aleck. The fox says, you know what? I know 300 beautiful, enthralling stories. I am going to get up in front of that lion, and I am going to wax poetic. Those stories are going to melt his heart, and he's going to forgive us all and just be friends again. Wow. All the animals say that's amazing. So, of course, they start walking behind the fox. The fox is leading all the animals, and they get a quarter of the way. And the fox turns around and he says he has a confession to make. After all, it's the high holidays. It's time for confession. And they say, what's the confession? He says, I forgot 100 stories. I only know 200 stories. Oh my gosh. But they say, you know what? 200 stories, the way you describe them, the lion will forgive us. Let's continue. So he continues leading the fox, and they're following. And another quarter of the way, the fox turns around again and says, Oy vey, I forgot. I have to make a confession. I forgot another 100 stories. I only know 100 stories. Let's say 100 stories, not a problem. The lion's going to forgive us. He goes another quarter of the way. He's almost there, and he turns around again. He says, I have another confession. And this time they know what to expect. And he says, I only remember 50 stories. 50 stories? That's enough. Don't worry. You'll only say 10 and it'll already be forgiving. Finally, they approach and they come to the kingdom, to the palace of the lion. And the fox leads them and brings them all the way up. And he's standing right in front of the lion together with all the animals behind him. And suddenly he turns around to the animals and says, yeah, I have a confession to make. I'm embarrassed, but I don't even remember one story. One story. The animals are terrified. And the fox looks at them and says, but don't worry. I already did my job. My job was just to bring you to the king. But you each have your own story to say. You each have the deepest, most powerful story to say. And the lion will forgive you. And the Baal Shem Tov tells us this story that's so relevant to today. Some of us are going to be home this year on Rosh Hashana for the first time in our life. We're used to being in a shul with 500, 1,000 people. There's a chazan, there's a choir, there's a rabbi giving an inspiring sermon. There's people around us lifting us up together, soaring to the great heights of heaven. But the Baal Shem Tov is telling us a message. Remember, this year you might be at home, you might be alone. But you are standing in front of the king and you have the greatest story to tell. You could have the greatest conversation with God. The chazan, the choir, it's all just there to bring you to the king. But when you're with the king on Rosh Hashana, you're in your own private audience and you say the best story. I have a recommendation to make. This year we learned a new way, a virtual Zoom. They say, well, it's gezoomed. But I have an idea. This year we're going to be sitting at a Rosh Hashana table. So many of us won't be with our loved ones. And we usually take an apple and we dip it into honey. But I was thinking about something else this year. That maybe virtually we should think about the honey in our life. Maybe we should think about all the good and sweetness we did this year throughout Corona to help and to impact someone else. We should think about our spouse, about our husband, about our wife, who's so sweet, who was so kind, who was there for us, who helped us, who took care of the kids and all the sweetness. We could think about our children, who are so full of love and so full of joy and added so much greatness to our life, and how sweet they are. Close your eyes and imagine the sweetness around you, and take your soul and virtually dip it into the honey, the sweet love of all the people around you. And may God give us that, as I said in the beginning, this should be a year, Tichal Shana Kil Hazel. May this year and its verses end, the Tichal Shana. May the year and its blessings begin. A year of health, a year of happiness, a year of nachas, a year of prosperity, a year when all those who need to find their shidduch, their match, should find it. A year of all those that are praying for children should find it. A year of all those that are looking to get out of captivity should be able to be free. A year for those who need prosperity, who need a job, who are hurting, to be able to find prosperity. A year of those who are craving for nachas, to be able to have nachas and joy. A year that God fulfills all the wishes of our heart for good. And a year when we say Corona in the past. L'chaim, Shana Tova,